Hey, peers, it's can't be here today, unfortunately. We have a social studies meeting at the Archdiocese for all the Catholic schools in Minneapolis. Ms. Byrne and Mr. Smith and I are there, so I cannot be there today. Mr. Ask is doing another awesome job of subbing. So let's get started. 4.3 State consolidation and imperial expansion with land and maritime empires. Make sure your packets are out. They should be complete. Tomorrow I'll be doing a homework check with your packets and your homework for today. So make sure those packets are completely done because you'll need them for the work today. All right, our essential question, there are two of them. These will basically be our essay questions. So Mr. Ask, if you could please, right now, hand out our assessments for our essays we'll be writing for this chapter. So here it is, if you could hand that out right now. This is our graphic organizer, and our two essential questions, as those are being passed out, are number one, our first essay question will be about what were the similarities and differences in the imperial expansion of the land empires. And our second question will be what caused imperial expansion and consolidation of maritime empires. Our objective for today will be to explain how land empires grew in the modern era. So let's go take a look at our actual graphic organizer and let's get this thing started right away. So first thing you're going to do is let me read our actual question, which is right here besides our essential question. So we are looking at 4.3 part 2. Imperial expansion relied on the increased use of gunpowder, cannons, and armed trade to establish large empires in both hemispheres. You might have some ideas for topics that could be in here as well for your essay. Part 1, LEQ, a comparison essay. Analyze similarities and differences in imperial expansion between the Ottoman Empire and another land empire of the early modern era and of the following land empires of the period 1450 to 1750. So you need to pick the Ottomans. You will be picking the Ottomans. And you get to choose who do you want to compare them with. Basically, their similarities and differences. The Qing dynasty or the Manchus, the Mongols, or the Russian Empire. So first thing I want you to do is take a look at your packet and especially look at the Ottomans. What are some possible topics you could write about that are about how they expanded and grew larger? So why don't you right now, let's get into the person with the person next to you in with groups of 2 or 3 and look for any possible topics that you could write about. What are some possible similarities and differences between these two? Why don't you take about 1 minute or 2 minutes to brainstorm some ideas with the people around you? Go ahead. Okay, now that you've had a chance to brainstorm, why don't you do this right now? Put down some topics that you're thinking about for writing. I've given you room here for 5 of them. You will need to have 3 when you are done that you're going to use. So go ahead and write down some topics that you want to write about. Take about 30 to 45 seconds to do that. Mr. Asking you to pause for just about 30 to 45 seconds. Go ahead. All right, do we have any ideas from the class? Can anyone throw out their ideas, raise their hand, and say which ones you have? Mr. Ask if you call on 2 or 3 people. Hopefully we have some volunteers. And go ahead and say what you have for your topics. So go ahead, push pause again, Mr. Ask, and call on a few people. All right, if you're struggling and don't have topics down, I do have some here. Maybe these have been said, but a couple of these could be weapons and technology. That would be a really good one for a topic. Another one could be treatment of outsiders of their empire, or just even kind of just like treatment of outsiders. For that one, you could definitely talk about the Ottoman, how they recruit people into the Devashirme and the Janissaries from outside their empire. You could talk about the how that was maybe even different than how the Manchus treated the Ming, if you wanted to write about those 2 empires. Architecture, showing power. I'm definitely thinking the Mongols for this one, Russia for this one, along with the Ottomans, obviously. And this last one here, defeating powerful empires of the post-classical era. That is a pretty big one because a number of these guys took out some post-classical empires, like the Ottomans did with the Byzantines, Russia did with the Tatars, the Manchus sure did when they took out the Ming Dynasty. So these are possible topics. If you don't have those down, go ahead and put those down now. All right, so now let's get back to your graphic organizer. You should have topics in there, and you should write those ones down. Here's what you can do right now. I want you to, first step on your own, fill out as much of this as you can. And I would start off with the Ottomans, put a lot of information for the Ottomans, and then put another empire in. If you put a lot for the Ottomans and you get a whole lot for the Mughals, for example, you might want to keep writing about the Mughals. Like let's say you pick architecture and you write about the Ottomans and the Mughals. Maybe you got a few more for those two, because those could be, the Mughals could be the one you pick. So fill these out, and of the Qing, Mughal, and Russian, you got to pick one of them eventually. Okay? So let's take some time. Why don't you take about 7 to 8 minutes on your own, looking at your notes, working on your own, filling this out the best you can. Mr. Ask, give them some time and hit pause right now. All right, now let's get up and move. You need to work with a new group. Get with a new group of 2 to 3 people. Get up, move around, and work with them for 3 or 4 minutes and compare and share your ideas. Mr. Ask, if they're working real well, give them more than 4 minutes if they need it. But go ahead and move around, get into your groups, and compare and share. All right, we're going to do one more round of compare and share. So get up, move around again, and do one more round of compare and share with the people who are around you. Go ahead and do that now. All right, your graphic organizer should be pretty full. What you're going to need to do now is pick if these topics are either similarities or differences. So again, looking at some of the topics, possibilities you could have. If I had treatment of outsiders, for example, and I'm writing about the Manchus and also the Ottoman, I might say they were different, that the Ottomans were more willing to bring people in from the outside for their janissaries, where the Manchus were not willing to do that with the Han. They kept them out of their homeland and made them, change their appearance. For example, that could be a difference. Could be a similarity too if you write it the right way. Architecture showing power, that could be a similarity between a lot of these. Defeating powerful empires of the post-classical era, that could be a similarity. It seems like finding differences might actually be harder on this one. So you need to have one similarity, one difference, and one can be a similarity or a difference. So look at your graphic organizer right now and try to pick 3 topics and 2 of the empire, and 1 empire you're going to write with the Ottomans. So which empire are you going to write about? And then go ahead and pick your similarities and your differences for your topics. Take about 3 minutes to get that done, and you may do that right now. Okay, now you should have some similarities and differences for your topics. At least 1 similarity, 1 difference, and a similarity or difference for this paper. If you're not quite there yet, you do need to have that for tonight. So let's get our essays ready. So take out a piece of paper. And here's what you're going to do. Write down your name, AP World 4.3 Land Empires Comparison Essay. Write that down. And then skip about 5-6 lines. And then you are going to write your 3 body paragraphs. This is going to be for your homework for tonight, to have a rough draft. Get as far as you can so you have something to compare and case for tomorrow when we write about this. Let me give you some possible examples of topic sentences that would come from your topics and your empires. I could write something like this. This could be a topic sentence for paragraph. There were similarities between the Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire, and how they used architecture to show their power while they expanded their empires. If I'm picking Ottomans and Russians there. Another one could be, there were similarities between the Ottoman Empire and the Qing dynasty, and how they both took over powerful post-classical empires as they expanded their power. Those would be similarity sentences. Here's a couple difference sentences. There were differences between the Ottoman and Qing dynasty and how they treated outsiders as their borders expanded. If you're struggling, this one might be the easiest for differences. Here's one that I found that I could write about. I have to look at the AP Worldopedia site a little bit, but there were differences between the Ottoman and Russian Empire and how they built their militaries. And I could put again as they expanded their empires. So the similarities will probably be easier for this one. It'll be the differences that'll be the harder ones, and we can talk more about that tomorrow. But let's talk about homework right now. Homework. For homework tomorrow, let's have 2 to 3 body paragraphs finished for this. So have 2 to 3 body paragraphs finished for your rough draft. So tomorrow, when you come to school, you can compare and case right away. Also, if your packet isn't done, make sure it's done tomorrow. I will be looking at your packets. I will be looking at your 2 to 3 body paragraphs and giving you an assignment completion grade. That'll be your first grade of the 4th session. So you want to make sure that's done because you have a 4.0. You have a 4.0 for session 4. So if you have a 0, for example, you have a 0 for session 4 if you have nothing done or can't show anything. So have your packets done for tomorrow. Have 2 to 3 body paragraphs for this essay. We'll go over them a bit for tomorrow and start our next essay. All right, why don't you guys get to work and work until the end of the class on this. We'll do our introduction and finish these up tomorrow. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day.